Please be seated. Happy New Year. Hello? Is it on? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Jeez. Seems a bit odd, doesn't it? To be saying Happy New Year now. But that's how it is in our tradition. The first Sunday of Advent is the beginning of the new year. The old year has gone away. Now there's some clues for you that today is the first Sunday of Advent. There's blue. There's blue. Screens are blue. Blue over here. Could have been purple, but we chose blue. So that's one of your first clues. We have candles, Advent candles, and one is semi-burning. I think it's about out of oil. But that's a clue. We got all gussied up for you and dressed up for the day. That's a clue. But there's another clue. And it's in today's readings. Every year on the first Sunday of Advent, the gospel reading is an apocalyptic reading. But you knew that. By apocalyptic, I mean one that somehow talks about an end time or a cataclysmic change that takes place. Apocalyptic literature is around us, but I've got to tell you, every time we read apocalyptic passages in the Scriptures, I get the heebie-jeebies. I don't know about you. Maybe it has to do with having been berated with those Scriptures growing up, or even as a young teenager. If you don't do what I say, blah, 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 blah. They're very much if-then kinds of things. If this happens, this will happen. So every time on the first Sunday of Advent and other days of the year that we read from apocalyptic readings, I get a bit nervous. And I get a bit nervous. But I don't know about you with that, but there's a way in which those kinds of readings permeate our lives. Not just in here, but everywhere we are. They're in literature. You can hardly turn on a television anymore without seeing a television show that's based somewhat on an apocalypse. And what's happening, either going to happen or what's happened, and how are we going to recover from it. And movies. All of those apocalyptic sorts of movies. In 1951, they released two of my favorite science fiction movies. My personal favorite was When Worlds Collide. When Worlds Collide. And the premise is that a group of astronomers have discovered that in very short order, a planet that has another little planet circling it is speeding toward Earth, and there is no way that it's going to miss. The day is coming. The day is coming. The other one that is often listed on the top 10 list of most people for science fiction movies ever, The Day the Earth Stood Still. And the premise of the movie is that a flying saucer, because we know that's how they always travel, never a flying cup and always a flying saucer. Lands in Washington, D.C. Imagine that. Aliens in Washington, D.C. I'll let that sit for just a second. Lands in Washington, D.C., and a man gets off with this 8-foot robot. And as he is coming out to greet people, he's shot. He's shot. Both of these movies are apocalyptic movies. They envision different types of end times. For him, in the second one, he has arrived to warn Earth that their newfound nuclear energy, if it is not channeled in the right way, will lead to others destroying. There is a time that may happen. A prediction of something that's going to happen as we see it right now. Apocalypse. But you know, it's a strange thing about this reading that we have today in our gospel. Matthew relates this story of Jesus, this revelation of Jesus, where Jesus says to folks, he says, to his disciples, there's this time coming, and there's going to be 2 men working in the field. One will be taken, and one will not. There will be 2 women grinding grain side by side. One will be taken, and one will not. Now, how do you hear that? One's going to be taken away to a fine place, and the other is not. One's going to be taken away to a bad place, the other one is not. It's not clear. It is completely unclear about what is happening there. All we know is that one will be taken. We don't even know why. Matthew could have been a lot clearer with this. He could have written this a lot better. He could have said, 2 men in the field working together. The Democrat is taken away and the Republican isn't. And the Libertarian can go either way. It doesn't matter. Jesus could have dealt with it better, and Matthew couldn't. Because you and I don't know what to do. We don't know how to respond to this. There's no choice implied in this for us. How do we pick which one we are? So I've decided that doesn't matter. That's not what it's about. You see, I think that what it's about is not about picking whose side we're on. It's about watching and waiting for the coming of Christ in our lives. The response to folks in the movie When Worlds Collide was predictable. So was that in the other as well. Oftentimes when you and I are faced with things that predict ahead, we want to deny them. Oh, we don't believe the evidence that these worlds are going to collide. We don't believe that. We don't believe that our actions in our world will affect the climate or the future of our lives together here. We deny it. Or perhaps on the other side, we expect that anyone who comes into our lives to raise our awareness is an enemy, and that we need to do everything we can to protect ourselves. You see, he only came to make us aware of what we were doing to ourselves. He came in peace. They only wanted to pull together as much as they could to get off of this earth and get somewhere else where there can be life. That's all they wanted to do. That's all. You know, one of the wonderful things about much of the apocalyptic literature, the good stuff that's written or that we read, is that it doesn't stop with doomsday. There are two elements that are very encouraging that we find there. One is that often we are warned ahead of time and told what is going to happen if we don't change our ways. That's also referred to as Old Testament prophecy or being prophetic. But the other is that even through those experiences, there's something awaits us on the other side. There is hope. There is hope. They made it and landed on the other planet. And when he flew away in his saucer, he flew away saying to them, "You have another chance." The day before the election, I posted on my Facebook page a link to a YouTube video of the band REM singing, "It's the end of the world and we know it. And I feel fine." I had two different responses to that posting. One group of responses basically were, "Yay, right on, this is good." I had said something along the lines of, if we don't have levity, we don't have anything left. And folks said, "Yeah, that's great. I agree with you. That's wonderful." And then there were a bunch of grumblers over here. Now, what I envision happened is that was on Monday. And I figure on Wednesday, the ones who really liked it on Monday hated it. And the ones who hated it on Monday liked it. But I think that you and I should take a page from REM and adapt it for ourselves. Every day is the end of the world. It's the end of the world, and I know it. And not only do I feel fine, but I'm going to watch and I'm going to wait. Wait for the Lord whose day is near. And I'm going to wait and watch for the celebration of the birth of this little baby in a Middle Eastern country who came into this world and turned it upside down. Wait and watch. Welcome to